You're listening to the AV-IT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro-AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again. I mess that up every time. Thank you for tuning in again to the AV-IT Amplifier. As always, I am your host, Ryan Gray, and we are back for week 2 with the very energetic and enthusiastic Samantha Powell. Thank you for coming back again this week, Sam. Could you remind everybody who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Well, I am the energetic Samantha Powell. I am our manager of industry advocacy with Advocacy. So been there for 3 years. Love every moment of it. So I work on our content creation team, coming up with really great education sessions and webinars, as well as hosting some of our webinars, actually, our design webinar. And I'm also a host on Advocacy TV. So really happy to be doing part 2.
All right. Well, welcome back. You made a huge mistake before this, which was admitting that this was your first one-on-one time where you are interviewing as someone who, like you said, hosts and creates a lot of content. So just to get started here, what does it feel like to have the questions directed at you instead of having to be the one, getting to be the one that asks the questions?
Oh, well, thankfully I put the air conditioning on because I'm sweating a little, but no, I'm enjoying it. I can see how it can be a little nerve-wracking. Yeah, I'm not one who likes to talk about themselves, which, you know, it's weird since I'm in front of a camera a lot, but I'm appreciating it. I think it's helping me grow professionally now.
There you go.
So I appreciate you being the first one to get the exclusive behind the scenes.
There you go. Well, that kind of leads me to something, because we talked a little bit in the first one. You know, you've got this role of advocacy, right? But advocacy is a little like, you know, I'm here to represent the interests of somebody else. I'm advocating on either this person, this group's behalf. And and that puts you in a place where it's, you like you said, it may not always be, it's not necessarily about you, but about you representing other people. Is that a kind of a role that you find interesting because it doesn't put the spotlight on you?
That is a great, I've never thought about it like that. I would say it speaks a lot to my character. I've always cared a lot about others. Like, my family would always be like, oh, you put yourself before everybody else, which I do. But it's something that gives me joy and worth, if you will. Like, you know, I really enjoy giving back to others and being an advocate for others. Yeah, no, I never thought about that.
That's all right.
But yeah, and that would make sense why I really enjoy what I do. You know, being in advocacy, I think that does speak to one of my strengths, you know, also maybe, you know, speaking up for people who don't feel like they can speak up for themselves, you know. I think I do a good amount of work with diversity and inclusion. I know with the Advocacy TV, you know, we've done some podcasts around, you know, topics like that are not always the easiest to talk about. And, you know, I've really appreciated Avixa's, you know, just openness to having those type of difficult conversations where others can be advocates, you know, for people in various situations, and just bringing to light some, you know, some topics that aren't really easy to talk about and things like that. So yeah, I think maybe that's why naturally I fell into this role, and I think it suits me really well.
Nice. So that branches me 2 directions, and I'll start with this because you talk about, you know, starting and having conversations that can be awkward or hard to have. And that is something I think that everyone struggles with, regardless, like whether it's a single conversation with an employee or a family member, up to, like you said, doing so like in some public way to to try and bring something to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to try and, to A, make yourself okay, or B, make others okay with having conversations that may be difficult to have?
I think it's about being relatable and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. I think a lot of us tend to just keep things to ourselves, right? But when you're not forced, right? But when you have an opportunity to talk to somebody who's really willing to be vulnerable themselves, it almost takes a little bit of weight off of your shoulders. Like, oh, I've got to, I'm perfect, nothing's wrong, everything's fine, things like that. It allows you the opportunity to connect with them, right? And be yourself. One of my character, I am who I am, right? I am my true authentic self. And, there was a point in time where I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to fit in. Nobody's going to see this just because I am who I am. I talk with my hands too much. I say what's on my mind. It may not be BC or anything like that. But I think once you're comfortable in your own skin, it's easier for you to be vulnerable and allow yourself to be vulnerable and let others know that you're being vulnerable, so you can open yourself to them and they're willing to let you in. And just that you're accepting. I think, with all the challenges that, we've gone through, especially, with the pandemic and things, I think people have opened up themselves and their minds to the other person a little bit more. And just seeing what others have gone through. And a lot of times you're probably dealing with a lot of things that a lot of other people are. So I just think allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open. And I think, in all honesty, it helps you grow yourself. Sometimes just keeping everything so, tight and within yourself, you feel like you're getting exposed. It's so nice sometimes just to have somebody that you can have that vulnerability with. And if it helps others along the way, which is what, some of the things that we have done on Advocacy TV, it's been really helpful, I think, and allows for, that dialogue and those type of discussions to continue throughout our industry and, with people that you work with. And I think overall that just really helps people to be better, better versions of themselves.
Yeah, I love that answer. It's one of those things that's kind of, you hear a lot about being, be genuine and be vulnerable, and it takes a lot of practice to do it, to be able to do it and put yourself out there in that way. So you mentioned, you said in your answer there, being comfortable in your own skin and being vulnerable, and before that about being someone who sees their role as advocating for others. To me, when I hear that, one of that thing that adds up to the possibility of someone that could end up in overload when it's my role to be out there, be genuine, be vulnerable, and do what other people need, if for their needs, not my own. How do you make sure that you don't get lost in that, or that you take care of yourself in that? Because my experience is things that other people need to be advocated for is a never-ending bottomless well. You know what I'm saying? Of needs.
You have to put limits. I don't want to go too in detail.
Yeah.
You have to impose limits, or else, some people can take all of you. They could be a life suck. Let's just put it that way, right? But, you have to set boundaries for yourself. And that's something I'm actually learning to do, because I would be that person that would allow people to take, way too much of me. And it is something that I'm learning to do, and self-care, right? That's a huge thing that I don't think gets spoken about enough. I remember there's always the saying, like, you get on the airplane, like, before you can help your child or something else, you have to put your seatbelt on. You have to put your, the face mask or whatever that's coming from the ceiling. You have to put that on first before you can help anybody else, right? You are no good to anybody if you can't breathe. So you can't help somebody else. So you need to take care of yourself first. And that's not easy. It's not necessarily easiest for me because I want to give back to others and help everybody. But it's something that I'm learning to do. But I think, yes, once you're good for yourself, then you can be really great for others. Yeah. So it's a work in progress, but you do have to take the time to take care of yourself first and make sure that you're whole before you can, give too much of yourself out to anybody.
Any advice for folks struggling with that same, like how to draw the line or figure out, when do I need to, draw a line, draw a boundary, set something like that? Any advice for people struggling with that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, first off, like, I love to walk. Like, first you have to figure out, like, what are your boundaries? Yeah. So take some time for yourself, figure out what you need, and then, you can set, boundaries for others. And then you have to let them know, like, these are your boundaries, right? I can help you so much, but when, Sarah, let's just say, Sarah, when you start to do X, like, I can't go any further with that, right? Because, and let them know, but, always let them know, like, you're here and you're going to be willing to help, but, I can only go so far. Or else then I'm not going to be good for you and I'm not going to be good for myself. So I think, like, for example, like I've learned, like, I'll take a shower, like, in the evening and just kind of decompress and then do, like, my self-care, regimen there. And, like, I can clear my head and think things through, and everybody may have something that works for them. Some people may like to journal or run or something that helps you to clear your head. But first, you've got to figure out, what you need. And then you've got to figure out, like, how far can you take it? And for a lot of people we have in our lives, we know, like, they may, like, try to test our boundaries. And you may have let people step over those boundaries, a time. And like, all right, I keep letting this person do X. But I think, like, part of my thing, I would never tell people what my boundaries were. So they just kept stepping over the line. And then once I told them, I was like, look, I'm here for you. I'll support you. But this is the boundary. They understood it. And then they didn't step over it anymore because they appreciated, being there to help advocate, to be helpful and things like that. So I think we're not conditioned, if you will, to always, like, speak up and say those things because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, even though, we may be diminishing ourselves. But I think being more vocal and speaking up for yourself, I think, is something that we really need to work on, I think, as a society, because we just keep so much inside.
I agree with all that, and that kind of clear, kind communication people appreciate more, but it's really scary to do sometimes, to be able to say, like, no, this is the line, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. If you're not used to doing it, you're used to waiting for other people to regulate themselves. And but
and they won't always do that. And if they know that they can keep pushing it, they'll keep pushing because they think
every time
you're okay
I've done
with
it,
that.
It's come out better than I thought, but it was scary every time. So I would. All right. So thank you. I think that's wonderful advice. Let's turn to something a little less heavy on that front. So, we've gotten the chance to hang out a couple times in the past. So, step one, that last time in Orlando, was that Hawkeye at the other table over there, or was it not Hawkeye?
Right? Was it like Jeremy Renner look-alike?
I still think it was Jeremy Renner.
It was, who was it? Our friend Joey who went over and asked him? I think it was our friend with his wife.
It was. Exactly.
His wife was there.
They looked a lot like Jeremy Renner.
But in the where was it? That restaurant, though. I don't think Jeremy would have been there. It was like, what,
No.
Margaritaville?
Yeah, at a random, outside a random event. No, I understand.
Yeah, maybe not.
But that leads me to something. So you mentioned in the other episode here that you do attend other shows and conferences and events to get things figured out. You're hosting things on Avixa TV. You're doing a lot of things that put you in front of people, talking, having in-person conversations and all that sort of thing that would probably make everybody say that person's an extrovert. They get energy from that kind of activity. So are you an extrovert? True or false?
It's a little bit half and half. So I definitely feed off of people's energy. Like, so if I'm home, by myself for a while and I haven't like gone out, maybe to a restaurant or been around people, like I'm not feeling great. So I'll be like, okay, I got to go out. I need the energy. I need, people around, like excitement, things like that. But you'd be surprised, like a lot of times at some of these events, like I will be a wallflower. Like I will like hide in my room. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just kind of want to center myself. And, for example, like when I'm preparing for Avixa TV, I wish I could like go out and, party and, go to all the industry events sometimes. Like I'll make my way, but then like I need to come back. Like I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I want to prepare. Like some of my co-hosts and things, they'll just be and I'm like, I'm like, I need silence, which is crazy because like I am crazy and people would not ever think that. But I would say like 70-30, 70% extrovert, 30% introvert. I like my me time. I like some quiet time, but I do like to be around people. I will be the life of the party, but then sometimes I don't want to go to the party and I want the party to be canceled and I don't have to go.
Well, I feel like that's the sort of thing with both extroverts and introverts is that thing like you're all one or the other. And that we know that's not the case. Because, I'm an extrovert. I get off of, but there are times where you're just like, nope, that's done for. Like that is not what's best for me right now.
Yes.
And, you know what I'm saying? So
we are here. Yep. And we know when to dip out.
Yeah, exactly. So, on that front, then, so you're attending a lot of things. You're traveling a lot. You know what I'm saying? You're out doing this sort of thing. So if you're out traveling and there's always the opportunity to eat well or eat garbage, what are you? So when you're looking at like, hey, we're going out to dinner tonight. My guess is, and from a little experience, you don't just go, whatever's close, it doesn't matter. We're going to go. You're looking for a place to go.
Yeah.
What are you using to make this decision?
Oh gosh, it is something that I have already planned like a week in advance.
Okay.
I am that person. Oh, it's really bad. I remember my first time at ISE. Like I already had every day booked for where I was going to lunch, where I was going to dinner. Like I already had a reservation like 2 weeks in advance. I am a huge foodie, so when I travel, I eat. So stretchy pants are us. Like that is, there will be no like tight fitting clothes. No, we don't do that. We have things that have room because I go to experience, different cuisines. So I use, I'm on TripAdvisor. I'm on Google reviews. I go to Yelp before I even go to the restaurant. I'll look at the menu online and then I'll go to Yelp and then look at the picture of what the food looks like to determine if I want to get that. It's a problem. It's like OCD level. And then I'll go and I was like, okay, well, I already know what this looks like. Oh, the portion is too small or this is not good.
Wow.
So I am prepared when I travel and I eat. But then now I also do I love nice restaurants, right? The gamut, you name it.
Right.
But there's always something to be said about that, mom and pop shop, the hole in the wall spot as well. So I don't want to do the touristy things. I want to do, where the locals go.
Yeah.
So that's why, so I try to walk as much as I can wherever I go because I know I am stuffing my face.
Yes.
and then I'll take the pictures and I keep the pictures. Oh yeah, it's a process. Anybody who comes to dinner with me, they know like not to touch the food,
Right.
Because I have to take multiple shots of it.
Yeah, but
And I don't put it on any social. It's just for me. And I can remember like what the food tastes. Yeah, it's a whole
Wow.
thing. I should probably have a podcast just about that.
I think so. Because I'm in on that. I'm the same. Like, I don't. Bless your heart. I don't have the time. I'm not doing all that sort of research. So if you could do all the research like that for us and then share it, I think that would be amazing.
I got you for Orlando.
Yeah.
That one spot that we went to. I cannot think of it, but the Wharf, I think it was.
Yeah,
I
something
think it was
like
called
that.
the Wharf. Yeah, really great grouper. I still like that is on my list to go to. So yeah, I will work out your your schedule. Okay. Just let me know if there's any things that you can't eat, you prefer. Just let me know.
All right. So the AV foodie now we've got like.
Yes.
I think you need to share this out with people. Okay, so this brings up a thing. So you've got this planned out. Here's what we're going to know. And then you're in a group and you're like, hey, let's go here. And what if other people are like, oh, no, we don't want to do that?
I'm great at convincing people.
There you go.
Or I will provide options of the places that I want to go and not give them any other options.
Perfect. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter to me. What about this place, or this place? Meanwhile, they're all on your A list. Well done.
They don't know. Yeah. You got to think ahead. That way I know I'm not going to get disappointed by some place that they picked that's not going to be good. I've already provided them with things that have been thoroughly researched and, that's where to go.
Okay. Well, now we know, everybody. If you're headed somewhere, you know what I'm saying, if the industry's figure out where Sam is going and then go there.
Yes.
That sounds awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so then as a foodie, one of the questions I've thrown in here to ask people is, what is the best sandwich?
All right. So I was born in New York. Now, granted, I've lived in, the Northern Virginia area for over 20 years. I'm in Charlotte now, so people won't let Sam in New York whatever. It could come out if it needs to. But I love a good Italian hero, a good Italian sandwich with a good crusty bread. I don't necessarily have a specific spot per se, but I just love a good Italian sandwich with everything on it. I'm trying to think, is there anything in particular? And yeah, you got to have like the oil and all the seasonings and stuff like that, but I'm not too picky with the Italian. So I'll say a good Italian sandwich.
All right, spicy. You need some spice in there?
I don't think I've actually had a spicy Italian.
Okay.
I can just do the right. I mean, because usually it has all of the, like your capicola, your salami, all that other stuff. I'm open to the spicy. Sometimes I just don't feel like
as much spice as those have. That, as you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I maybe work because I put mustard on it, which I don't think I'm supposed to do, but
I don't know. That sounds pretty good. All of a sudden, I was like, maybe I wonder where I could get an Italian sandwich around here.
I'll put like a spicy mustard on it. That's what I'll do, yeah.
There you go. Okay. Well, that's good advice, and you had a clear answer for it, which I appreciate, which is good. Okay. All right, let's flip you back the other way, to the other side, which is, do you believe that people are generally good with a proclivity for evil or generally evil with a proclivity for good?
I would say good with a proclivity for evil, but I don't think people want to be bad. I think things happen. But generally, people, I believe, are well-intentioned and are good. That's why, sometimes when you see these accidents, like people just come running, I've been in an accident where, something happened to my car and just strangers, they'll run to see if you're okay, not knowing, you from Adam or anything like that. When disasters happen, I feel like people just have that inclination, like we want to help. I think people have a good sense of, well, what if it was me? Right?
Yeah.
So I think people tend to put themselves in other shoes. So I believe that people are inherently good. sometimes I know it's you question things sometimes, but I do think, though, in general, I think people are inherently good.
So how does that then kind of inform as you move through life and you form relationships and things? Does that perspective change how you deal with certain situations?
I think if you go into knowing that hopefully most people are well-intentioned and are doing things, the best that they can and try to be the best people. Now, I will remove people or not have them in my life if I don't feel like that. I don't tend to surround myself with selfish people or, people who I don't think have like a truly good heart. Because for me, as somebody who is so giving and so open, I know I can be easily taken advantage of, and I don't put myself in those type of positions. And I also just, because my heart is so big, I just don't understand people who maybe aren't as, open or not necessarily welcoming, but I don't want to say good, but yeah, I just feel like life is so short and you really should surround yourself with people who are going to help you grow and make you a better person. Like it's not really great for you to be around like super negativity and things like that. So, but I mean, yeah, I understand that everybody has their flaws. There's nobody that's perfect. Obviously, everyone knows that. But people who are willing to be the best versions of themselves, I like to be around people like that because, positive vibes, good energy, feeding off of one another. I think it's just going to really help everybody be their best selves.
When it seems like that ties back into a little like the, trying to work to be genuine and vulnerable is a whole lot easier to do when you cultivate, groups, teams, friends that, are themselves that way, or you can trust a little bit to take care of you in that vulnerability.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you never know when something bad is going to happen. And I've been in that, I've always been like that friend. I will have your back through thick and thin. And, as you get older, friends change. Everybody has, different responsibilities and things like that. So it's really good, though, just to keep, good-hearted people around you and in your life. And if, maybe you run into people who aren't, if there is anything like that, you can help them maybe see, there's other options, other opportunities, and try to, bring some brightness and light into their lives to maybe help them if they're, because some people are in bad places and don't know how to get out of them. And sometimes they just need a friend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And let them know there is light on the other side, and let's figure out how we can get you to that place.
That's awesome. What a great sentiment. I agree with that. I love that. It's, it's one of those things that even when things get tough, if you can keep that perspective up front, you can always figure out what the next right thing to do is,
Exactly.
even when things seem hard. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right. Same last 3 questions for everybody. Third to last question. What is a question you wish you would be asked, but nobody ever asks?
I think I would say, how can I help you? Mm-hmm. But how can I help you?
Yeah.
What can I do to, lighten your, what do you need? What do you really need?
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, it may just be surface level. But I think a lot of people need something or they may just want somebody to talk to, or, somebody who's supportive, or there's just so much that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I think just having people who are genuine and who really care, I think there's not a lot of that happens because we're so busy, right? Yeah. But I think that would be a great question for people to just ask, how can I help you? What do you need?
And that, people say that a lot, but there's always, it's like, how are you is the same. And that comes up a lot in this one, which is the difference between saying it in a perfunctory way, hoping that nobody's ever actually going to give you a real answer, and asking it in a real way. And I would tie it back to that being genuine and vulnerable. You have to be that before you can really ask that question or answer that question for somebody in a way that you can get to the bottom of something. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a really good one.
Thank you.
Is there any advice is there a way you would go about asking that question to somebody in a way that they knew you were really asking and not just saying it because you think you're supposed to?
I think sometimes if you open up that question with maybe sharing something about yourself, right? I think it goes back to a little bit about what we said before. It's hard for people to be vulnerable with somebody who, they think they just want to, hear some gossip or drama, who doesn't really care. But if you're willing to, open up and, for example, hey, right now I'm feeling so overwhelmed and I just have so many things going on with my life. And, I would love it if somebody helped me with X, but I'm here for you. How can I help you? Granted, I'm going through things and, I understand that you're going through some similar things. I think if you put yourself out there, I think it's easier for somebody to open themselves up and put themselves out there, and they know that you're there to listen and they know that they're not alone. Right. So I think, that vulnerability piece comes right back into that. And they'll see that you're kind of a trusted source because you're willing to put yourself out.
No, I think I agree. But again, not easier said than done, but something that when cultivated really can kind of really make a serious difference. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that. Second to last question, how would people get in touch with you or follow you if they wanted to know more about Samantha Powell?
Sure. I can be reached via my email. So it's first initial last name. So spowell@avixa.org, as well as on Twitter. And that is Samantha D. Powell. Right, or I guess it's X. I keep calling it.
I know. Everyone knows what you're talking about, and that's all that words need to be in there. I think you're good to definitely give her a follow and reach out. It's somebody that is good to know. And
please do.
And then finally, what would you say is if you had a slogan or a drop the mic sign off phrase for your shows and the things you do? What would that be?
Ooh, a fun question. I think my sign-off would be love big, laugh often, and keep it classy.
Thank you for listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Join us again for next week's episode when we'll welcome a new guest who you'll want to hear from. We promise. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.